Felicitous greetings, fellow fanatics.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Adam the Fanatic, and today we're taking a look at Stronghold Definitive Edition, a castle-focused real-time strategy game by Firefly Studios. Without any further ado, let's dive in. Originally released in October of 2001, Stronghold launched a series of RTS games that focused less on expanding bases and taking over resource nodes, and instead was more about building and sustaining a self-sufficient medieval castle. The original Stronghold already saw a re-release as HD Edition in 2013, but aside from running better on modern systems and supporting higher resolutions, the HD Edition really didn't change much. However, today we're taking a look at the recently released Definitive Edition, which has touched up the graphics and adds a fair bit of content to the game, with more planned through both free updates and paid DLC. More on that at the end. In Stronghold, you'll take on the role of the Lord loyal to the King of England. However, the King has been captured, and in his absence, 4 disloyal vassals have risen up to take control of the nation themselves.
Taxes! Beautiful, lovely taxes!
Throughout the course of the campaign, you'll need to establish keeps throughout the countryside to defend against the treasonous, animal-themed villains. There's not much of a story here, but the actors for the villains clearly enjoyed hamming it up, especially the pig. Sorry, I had to. Most missions within the campaign will involve you building up a castle. When doing so, you'll need to manage a variety of different resources. It eases you in by only introducing a few at a time. The earliest levels won't even have you working with stone. You'll need lumberjacks to gather wood and hunters to gather meat. But as the campaign goes on, you'll have more materials to manage. You'll quickly come to realize that this is a very logistics-focused game. Or at least, it feels like it's supposed to be, but I'll get to the market in a moment. As an example, you need workers to man the quarries and oxen to carry the stone back to your reserves. You need lumberjacks to gather wood and fletchers to make that wood into bows. But if you want crossbowmen, then you'll also need a dairy farm to raise cows, tanners to butcher them, which strangely doesn't provide meat, and then you'll also need some spare peasants to recruit as soldiers. Want bread? You'll first need farms that have to be built on lowlands to grow wheat, mills to grind it into flour, and then bakers to make it into bread. And you have to keep the placement of all these things in mind, as most of these workers have to physically walk to your stockpile to pick up what they need before they begin their work. And on that note, any foodstuffs will have to be taken to the granary before it can be eaten. You'll also need to manage happiness. Your population can be appeased by things like religious fervor, extra rations, decorations, and ale. All the while, you'll generally want to raise taxes just to the point where they're still happy with you. All this makes it feel like there's supposed to be a very heavy focus on city planning, mapping out where you want everything, and managing your keep accordingly. But then there's the market. As you would expect, the market allows you to buy and sell resources. This can help you make up for a weak industry, but honestly, it's too good in some ways. For most maps, the best way to play is to just focus really heavily on 1 or 2 easy to obtain resources, sell those off, and buy weapons rather than building them yourself. But what's a little strange to me is that with as much focus as there is on logistics, you don't really have to worry about construction. Don't get me wrong, you'll still be building walls, towers, defenses, moats, traps, and all sorts of civilian buildings as well. But when you want to build something, you just click the spot you want it, and as long as you have the necessary supplies, boom, it's built. Mind you, you can't build or rebuild nearby enemies to prevent you from simply cheesing them with endless walls, but you can wait until the last minute and just suddenly place down a tower you forgot you needed. As for combat, archers rule the early game, and crossbowmen replace them for most other purposes. When defending, you can place them on towers to give them extra range and make it harder for enemies to hit them. The game has a variety of melee units which you're expected to build, but when defending, most of the time it feels like it's better to just swarm archers from the high ground and never engage the foe directly. Later in the game, you will fight armored foes, which can take a beating, but most of the time you can just overwhelm them with sheer numbers, at least on normal difficulty, which is what I played on. The game does include options for hard and very hard. In addition to your typical levels, you'll also have a handful where things are reversed and you'll be laying siege to an enemy castle. Most of these do not involve building up your forces, but instead you're given a set army with which to take their land. Although you will be able to build siege engines in other missions, this will be your primary chance to use things like battering rams, catapults, and trebuchets. Depending on the individual mission, you may need to wipe out the entire army or just slay their commander. There's only a few of these, and they do add a nice change of pace. However, they do flip the game on its head in a way that feels kind of unintuitive. Whereas most of the game you're focused primarily on macro, this will have you doing a lot of micromanaging, and it can feel disconcerting with the sudden and jarring shift. Aside from the 21 mission main campaign, there's a lot of extra content included. Definitive Edition has a brand new 14 mission additional campaign as well as a number of standalone scenarios, including a series of them based on defending historical castles. There's also a number of economic missions and even a free build mode when you just want to relax. But that doesn't even go into the updates that they're already working on for the game. The devs have promised additional economic mode missions and more historical castles are coming as free updates, along with 2 paid DLCs of 7 missions each. It should go without saying that I've not played any of those yet, but the prices are surprisingly reasonable. Presentation-wise, the game looks pretty good overall. Since you are locked into an isometric viewpoint, you may be concerned about walls, but you can quickly hit the spacebar to flatten buildings and terrain, place buildings as needed, then hit space again to return to a normal view. Voice acting is fine. Nothing spectacular, but nothing grating or annoying either. Well, maybe the snake, but he's supposed to sound annoying.
Ah! You severely try my patience! I will remove you yet!
You're given the opportunity to zoom out quite a bit, which actually does make larger keeps look rather spectacular, especially when larger armies are fighting over them. All in all, as someone who never had a chance to enjoy the original release of Stronghold or the 2013 version, I have to say that I'm reasonably impressed with what I've seen. It's certainly not my favorite RTS, but it does enough things different from the norm that it doesn't feel like it's trying to replace something like StarCraft or Command & Conquer. The heavy focus on logistics makes it feel almost something like a medieval SimCity, but with the threat of invaders ever on the horizon. The military aspect is still present certainly, but it's not the focus. Yes, just about every RTS has economy as part of its game, but here it's not merely a means of funding your army, but where you're likely to focus the majority of your time, even in the mid to late game. I do feel like I have to shoehorn in the fact that there is no skirmish mode which you can play against the AI. If I'm being entirely honest, I don't care, and I don't think that every RTS should be required to have such. There's been so many comments about it online that apparently it's a much bigger detriment to some players than I would have imagined. As for myself, there's plenty of other content here, and I'm not going to miss such a mode. In conclusion, I find Stronghold Definitive Edition to be worthy of a respectable 8 out of 10.
Stronghold Definitive Edition is currently available for PC via Steam. If you're interested in purchasing or learning more, links are included in the description. But what about you? What do you think of Stronghold? What logistics-focused games do you enjoy? Have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view? Leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. And if you really enjoy my work, please consider funding my channel on Patreon. Until next time, farewell, fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.